Hi everyone, it's Zara Altair. This is the Midweek Zap. Welcome, Zapster audience. So great to have you here. And our guest today is Phil Bowyer, breaking rules as usual, and he has a book coming out in September. Phil, tell us a little bit about yourself and then about your new book.
Oh wow, that's a mouthful. Well, first, thanks for having me on a second time, Zara. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you and being on your show. My name is Phil Bowyer. I'm the guy that likes to break rules, so I'm sure you've seen that little tagline flying around if you know me. My book is called Coloring Outside the Lines, and essentially what it's about is about instead of looking, we have all these experts that want you to look to external sources for the answers, mainly them. The book is about actually going internal, inside yourself, and finding those answers, discovering what your passion is, and going down that road of living your passion. Not following your passion, but living your passion.
Oh, I really love that distinction, not following but living.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a difference, and we were talking in the green room before the show about teaching people and about being what you teach. And the reason you're back, Phil, is I just love your view of marketing and your way of being. Um,
Thank you.
so tell us a little bit about the book, and I know you shared with me the main premise of the book, so let's talk about that first.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's about we have all these external sources that we tend to live by and run our business by, and that tends to get us off track. And when I talk about you know living your passion versus follow, everybody wants to follow their passion. If you're following your passion, then you're not living it because you're always behind it. You're always chasing after your passion. But if you're living your passion, then you're living the dream. Then you're doing what you want to do. You're doing what you're meant to do. You're having the time of your life, and the journey that you're on is going to take you to the destination that you want to go. So that's, this kind of sounds like a self-help book, and in some ways, I guess it is, but it really is more of a business book. It walks you through discovering if what you're doing right now, if the business that you're in, if that's your passion, or if it's just something that's paying the bills, and it walks you through finding your passion. This is not a book where you sit down and read. It's a book that you read, and then I tell everybody to get one of these. Get yourself a notebook and have that handy, because I'm going to give you exercises to do as you go along. So one of the things is, let's find out if what you're doing is your passion, because sometimes we bullshit ourselves. Sometimes we don't we lie to ourselves because that's easy. We like the easy button. And this book is not the easy button. This is the hard button. But the good news about it being hard is that the result is going to be so much better, and you're not going to spin your wheels. So you're going to be able to accomplish more in less time, even though it's a little harder.
So
So
the essence of it is delving into yourself, and
yourself and your business,
uh-huh.
and the products that you deliver, and your audience. There's all these different pieces to running a business, and basically it's getting honest about what you're doing, about the people that you're serving. Do you want to, if you're not serving the right clients, you're A, not doing them a good service, and B, you're not living your passion, because you're dealing with the wrong people. You gotta align yourself with the right people, both on a team standpoint and on the client standpoint. You got to surround yourself with the right people, because that's what's going to make you happy and help you thrive and get to where you want to go.
give us an example of one of the exercises that we would do inside our notebook.
One of them, well, we'll start with passion. And the first couple chapters are about passion and kind of figuring out if what you're doing is what you want to do. And one of the exercises, I actually have you go through some questions that you have to ask yourself. Like when you wake up in the morning, do you really want to get out of bed and go to your office, or do you dread getting up every day? And then everything kind of goes from there and stems from that. And because if you wake up every morning and you go, man, I really don't want to do this, you're not living your passion. You may think, we all like to be entrepreneurs. Everybody watching this show is an entrepreneur. We all love the idea of being an entrepreneur, and a lot of times we've fallen into something and that's become our business. I was like that for the longest time. And so this is actually, kind of a slap in the face and say, okay, if I'm waking up every morning and I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, then that's probably not something I should be doing. So what is that passion? What is that thing? This is the other question. If somehow the magical bill fairy came around and all my bills were paid, what would I do? What would I do just for shits and giggles? What would be something that I could do as a business, assuming all my bills could get paid, I don't have to worry about the finance thing. That's the kind of place where you need to start.
Okay, and
start. Remember that's a starting point, because some things, I don't care what anybody says, there's just not a business around that. So you got to make sure then the book goes on. As we go down the book, we'll take that passion and we'll develop that into a business, is what we do.
So in that first exercise that you described, someone might end up with more than one thing about which they're passionate. Is that correct? Or do they need to narrow it down to the one thing?
You got to narrow it down to the one thing. You got to keep asking yourself, and I have everybody do that a couple times. Ask that question and keep going back. And then there's a series of questions underneath that you have to answer. And if you answer no to any one of those questions, then you have to go back and start over. And you go through this process until you find that one thing, that one passion, that you answer yes to everything, and that's your passion. That's where you should be living.
Oh, wow, that's really great. I like the idea of going back if you answer no, because many of us have lots of things about which, well, let's see, lots of things that we like to do, I mean, when I had my border collie, we were out sheep herding, and it was border collies are a part-time job. It's like 4 hours a day. You're out rocking and running, and a walk is a sniffing adventure. It is not exercise. But was that the total passion of my life? No, that was, fun with my dog, and sheep herding was fun and challenging and all that sort of thing. But that is not the passion of my life. And so I can see how going through that exercise, and every time you hit a no, like, is sheep herding the passion of your life? No. It's fun to do, and I learn a lot, but it's not my passion. That it's really going to help people narrow down, especially in a business sense, what is it that you really, really, really love? And, for me, for example, coming into marketing was like, okay, I have my website, and I know I'm supposed to post blogs, blah, 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 but I really love doing HOAs. Mm-hmm. I love meeting with people just like we're meeting today. I love the audience involvement. I've just been amazed at, some of the things the audience comes up with while we're having our conversations.
Yeah.
And wait, I'm going to bring up some comments here because we've got one from Kevin Burns. If you wake up and think, I don't want to go to work today, you're not living your passion. So great. And it's so true. And then we have greetings from Lee. Hi, Lee.
Hey, Lee, what's going on, man?
And then you, Phil, have congratulations from Alexandra Rica Gonzalez. Congrats on the publish, Phil Bowyer.
Thank you.
And then Elena, whoops, I gotta come down here. Elena is just saying hello. And thanks, Elena. You're a faithful Zapster. Thanks so much for joining us today. Okay.
Zapster. See, and right there, when you've got people that, how can I explain this? You just called Elena a Zapster. That's I think when you can come up with these fun, quirky names for the people that you engage with. I mean, I think that's when you're kind of hitting your passion right there. When you can have fun with it, and it's not a chore. When some of the things come easy. I mean, life, business isn't about the easy button, but that doesn't mean that everything is hard. There are some things that just come natural and come simply, to the equation. And that right there, when that's just awesome. But you were bringing up a point that I think is really key. And now that I think about it, I think maybe even inspired the book a little bit. I used to have a lot of clients that were authors. And the thing is, you have to have a blog. If you don't have a blog, you're an idiot, and the search engines won't find you, and blah blah blah. So all these authors had blogs. What did they write about? Well, they wrote about writing. Their audience doesn't give a shit about how to write a book. Their audience cares about the topic of the book, right? Yes. So they weren't. In a sense, they were living their passion, but they were misaligned. They didn't want to write about writing. They wanted to write whatever it is whatever their passion was that they write about. So, all these people weren't living their passion. They were living the advice that they got from people that said they had to have a blog. My wife's a writer, and she's like, I don't want to have a blog. I'm like, then don't have a blog. I deal with I work with a lot of musicians, and they tell me the same thing. I don't know what to write about. I don't want a blog. I said, then don't have one. Do what you're passionate about. Instead of writing a blog post, go make a freaking song, go to the studio, record a song, film it, do a studio report, and there you go. There's your blog. So it's a matter of how you look at things and doing what you want to do versus what some guy tells you should do.
Yes, and then Lee has a really fabulous comment. And yes, Lee, we like your comments. Yes, he had another post earlier about whether his comments meant anything or not, and they do. And here we go. So agree with the ask yourself why, and then move on problem. Some people will convince themselves that the answer they have just thought of is enough justification to carry on. That's true. And so how did your book help people with that?
By asking them to ask themselves very specific questions that are yes and no. There isn't any room for embellishment or explanation. They're yes or no questions. And when you get to the yes and no, it's very hard to deny that answer. It's kind of like, 3 + 3 is 6. You can't really deny that's kind of a fact. So if I were to say, is 3 + 3 6, it's either yes or no. And so asking those very specific questions is a way to combat that. But then again, we can lie to ourselves. So you have to go into this with the intention of changing, with the intention of being honest and making sure that the answers that you give are going to take you to where you want to go. Without that, nothing is going to help you. You can still continue to lie to yourself all day long. and justify everything you do and say. And I mean, we are human, and again, it's good to have somebody, a mentor, a coach, somebody else along with you to kind of help you along the way. I mean, this book isn't a catch-all. It's not designed to be the only thing in your life that's going to get you on the right track. It's my view on things, and it's what helped me and the people, my clients, the people that I work with. This is what's helped them. So hope that answers your question, Lee.
Yes, Lee, thanks so much. And then Ivana Taylor, hey, Phil Bowyer, got to get a copy of this book to review. And Phil, you want to tell everybody how they can get a copy of the book today?
Today. For everybody watching, we're going to do something kind of cool. Everybody that, the first 10 people that leave a comment with their biggest takeaway from the show, we'll get a digital copy of the book. I'll send it to you in whatever format you need it in, if EPUB, Kindle, PDF, HTML if you want it. I can probably do that too. So yeah, that's our contest for today, or a little giveaway. So 10 people today will get the book. You just got to leave your biggest takeaway from the show, and I'll send you the book.
Okay, so takeaways. So after the show, you can think about, what struck you, and then leave it as your takeaway. And then, Phil, am I part of this process, Phil, or are you the only one? We're going to be deciding.
No, we can do it together.
Okay, cool. And so we're going to be choosing the best favorite takeaway. I don't know, that's going to be hard. So I just want to do a quick break here. This is the Midweek Zap, and I want to thank our audience for joining, and our future audience on podcasts and on YouTube for checking in with us. And Jessica Maynard is here. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Jessica.
And let's see. And Kevin has a comment. Let me bring this up. We all have a pretty good idea what we like to do. Listen to your inner voice, meditate on it, write them down, then prioritize. If you're doing something you just really are not digging, then write that down too. At some point, you will have a good list to move toward your passions. Then figure out how to monetize, since we all need to float our boats.
Mm-hmm. That is very true.
That is very true. And hi, David, so glad you could join us.
What's up, David?
And you know what? We started this a few weeks back, having audience members come in on the panel and ask questions directly to our guests. So not everybody does this, so I want to thank you for hopping in, and let's hear your question to Phil.
Well, two of my favorite people. And I will blast Phil. Phil, what is it that you got to do something different all the time? What's that all about? Why do we have to do something? Why can't we just go with the flow?
Why can't we just go with the flow? Well, do you think any of the people that go with the flow, do you remember them? Business is about not only providing a product or a service that solves your customers' pain points or tension points, but it's also about standing out. You can't solve anybody's problem unless they know about you. So, doing things differently, standing out, being unique while being true to yourself, I think, is really what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the unsuccessful entrepreneurs.
I love that. You can't solve anybody's problems if they don't know about you. That's kind of the heart of the matter of marketing,
There's a flip side to what Phil just said. I've had many people call me up with solutions to, quote, pain points without even knowing what my pain points are. And that is one of That is one of my biggest pet peeves, that they're offering solutions to problems, challenges, situations, and they don't even know if I need that.
You know
What's
what? I've
your
had that.
that?
I've had that happen as well, and I've especially had that. We're going to discount emails that do that for today's discussion, but I have also had that happen with messages, private messages on Google Plus, that people are, telling me that whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's incredibly presumptuous. I find it presumptuous. I wouldn't say it's one of my biggest pain buttons, but I do find it presumptuous, and I'm telling you, if it's somebody I've been thinking about, they go way down on my list, because that's not communicating.
No, it's.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you handle a situation like that? You tell them, don't bother me. You tell them I'll talk to you later. How do you handle that? Oh, that's a good question for Phil. How do you handle a situation like that?
I honestly, I ignore it, because I'm big into relationships, and if you're not going to take the time to understand me and what my pain points are, then that shows me you don't care. And if you don't care, then there's no way that we can have a relationship, and there's no way that we can do business, because you know what? Part of trust is caring. And so I actually just delete it, block if necessary. They're gone. Now, that said, I do take it, there are people that have tried to build a relationship or are new to building a relationship. They don't understand me entirely. Hell, my wife doesn't even understand me entirely, but that's a whole different subject.
Yeah,
we won't go there. But, if they're making an effort, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but these people that come up and they have no idea who I am or what I do or what I'm about, and they proclaim to know all the answers on how to run my business. It's like, no, sorry, you're gone.
And then we have another question from Lee. Boy, you're riding the wave today, Lee. It's not the thing to get you on the right track, Phil Bowyer. How do you know that? It could be one thing that sets the reader off on a magic journey. So how does it's not the thing to get you on the right track? If it's something that, do you understand his question?
I don't understand this. It's not the one thing that gets you on. It's, no, it's not the.
Come on, Lee. Let's restate that question.
Yeah, could you restate it, please, Lee, and I'll bring it back up.
Yeah, sorry, Lee. I'm not. Biggest takeaway will be the book.
Well, he's quoting you. It's not the thing to get you on the right track, but how do you know that? And I'm thinking, we'll wait for Lee's restatement, but I'm thinking that if you're hitting a no answer in the process of your book, that would be the answer. How would I know that? It could be the thing, but I think the process that Phil is offering is what helps us distinguish between the things that can be or could be the things that help us take off, and the things that, bring us joy but aren't the main passion.
Right.
Is that making sense?
Right. I like to drink whiskey every now and then, but that doesn't mean I can make a business out of that. I mean, I suppose I could do an HOA and review whiskeys, and, I guess there is an opportunity there. But, we all have things we enjoy. We like hobbies. We like to do all these things, but that's not our passion. That's not what we're meant to do. I mean, entrepreneurs, we spend a crap load of time on our business, and that's got to be something that is our passion. I mean, we spend probably more time in our business than we do with our families. So, it's got to be the right thing. It's worth taking the time to explore that and to make sure that what we're doing is what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, I think it's not. I think it's I agree, because there's so much in being an entrepreneur that I call rhino work. It's all those hours you spend doing all those things that your customers don't say, or putting together an HOA that your audience doesn't see. That you spend all these hours putting something together and then doing all the follow-up. And if you are not passionate about it, you're going to start feeling resentful about those tasks. Instead of, when you feel passionate about it, you're like, oh boy. I mean, it sounds corny, but it's really true. It's like, oh boy, now I've got to go strip the audio, and get that up and get it on my website so people can download it. Because if you're the opposite and you're going, oh my God, now I have another task and I have to strip the audio and then I have to, get the link on my website and da da da. If that's your attitude, then it's passion diminishing, because whereas if you're really passionate about what you're doing, it's just part of the whole system of what you do in your marketing.
Right, and I kind of talk about this in the book a little bit when I talk about systems and building systems. And I start off that chapter by talking about the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle. And not everything that is your passion is something that you're going to be passionate about. There are going to be some tasks that align with that you just don't want to do, that you're not skilled in, that take away from that core piece of your passion. Those are the things you want to delegate out. Those are the, Zara, you love HOAs. That's your thing. But I bet you don't want to sit down and transcribe this session right here.
No, I don't.
So that's something that you can say, go to Fiverr or wherever and say,
exactly.
have somebody transcribe this for me, right? Stripping the audio, maybe that's not something you want to do, is to convert the MP4 to an MP3. Hire somebody to do that, somebody that loves that. The stuff that we hate to do is someone else's passion. Find those people and make them part of your team. That way, everybody's living their passion, and we can all sing Kumbaya and have a drink and go home and be happy.
That's so true. That outsourcing and discerning what you need to outsource is really part of the whole construct of your business. And I'm finding that the more I outsource many things, which I call taskettes, they're little things that need to be done that complete the whole picture, but that may not be my skill set, or it's just somebody does it much better than I can, and so it frees up my time to do other things, and especially on Google Plus to engage with other people. And then Ivana has a comment here. We just had this huge conversation about passion, uppercase, and the distinctions about what you're passionate about. Is it helping people? Is it the outcome? Is it the process? I've decided that passion isn't something that bites you in the ass. It's something you craft and create because of your commitment to who you are and what you do. You have a response to that, Phil? Want me to read the last part again?
No, I don't know as though I agree that it's something that you craft and create. Maybe I'm kind of reading too much into it or taking it too literally. I think passion is something that's inside, and we need to find it. We may need to craft something around it to realize it, and maybe that's what Yvonne is saying right there. But yeah, passion, I think, is something that we all like to talk about, but we don't like to live, and we don't like to embrace it fully. We like to think we do, but I think we like to keep it at an arm's length, because passion is difficult. It's hard. It's not easy. Think about a relationship, with your spouse, or those keeping that going. That's not easy. That's very, very hard. But if you can keep the passion there, it's a whole different relationship than if it's not.
Yes, I have to agree. And then Lee is clarifying his earlier question. Phil Bowyer, just earlier you said that your book is not going to be the thing that gets us on the right track. If you still don't understand, I'll backtrack on the replay and find it.
Okay. No, well, what I meant to say, it's not the only thing that's going to get you. I don't remember saying that, but what I'm guessing I meant was it's not the only thing. This book is designed to put you on the right track, but you can't rely only on this book or any book to sustain that and to keep you there. You're going to have to align yourself with good people, a coach, a mentor, people that you trust, that to hold you there and to keep you honest and to keep you moving in the right direction. There's books that I have that I'll go back to, just because it's been a while since I read them, and I have a different process for reading books now. But books are only as good as when you read them and what you take away from them and the notes you take off of them. So when I say that it's not the only thing that's going to keep you on track, it'll get you there, it'll put you on the track, but you can put a train on a track, but at some point it could derail, and then it needs help getting back on the track. Absolutely. So that's kind of what I mean. You're going to need either to reread the book to put you back on track, because this book is for the audience for this book is for existing entrepreneurs that are struggling in their business or having a rough go of it, or they just have no clue why they get up in the morning. It's also for new entrepreneurs that know that they want to do a business but not quite sure what. They have that running through their blood, their veins, but they're not quite sure what to do with it. So that's what this book is for. But yeah, it needs to be sustained.
Yeah, and then Jessica Maynard has some feedback for you, Phil. I love that I'm listening. I can almost hear Phil Bowyer's answer before he answers. I watch too much Phil Bowyer, laugh out loud, not really. I lost my place here. I told him the first time I saw his HOA, I am newer to Google+, and it's good that I get to learn to break the rules before I learn those rules that have been out there. That's such a great point, Jessica.
Great point.
That's
Bill, I think you ought to write a book on that, breaking the rules before you know what the rules are.
Yeah, I think that's the next book, Phil.
There you go.
Okay, and then we have, here we go, Kevin Burns, and we're coming down to the end of our show here. Kevin Burns says, at 2130, if you don't care about my pain points, then we just can't have a relationship. You need to try to understand me, at least make an effort. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Otherwise, sorry, you're gone. EI and related factors and cofactors to the rescue. And then translation, use common sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which is something else we like to keep at a distance, unfortunately. Common sense is a rare thing these days.
Why do you think that is?
It's hard. I mean, we've gotten to the point now where everything is easy and everything has to be easy for us to even consider it. And I think that's pretty sad, and maybe that's the cynic in me coming out. But, when you look at, I was reading the other day about how convenience has trumped quality now. We look at MP3s. MP3s from a quality standpoint suck, but yet that's the format. If you're a musician and you don't release an MP3, you're screwed, right? So MP3s are easy. getting a LP, the vinyl, putting it on a record player, all that's harder to do than carrying around 15 million songs on some, MP3 player. So, I think because we were promised that technology was going to make our life easy, but it hasn't. It's made it more difficult. We have more things to do, not even as an entrepreneur, just as an everyday Joe citizen. Technology makes it harder for us to do almost everything these days.
I don't know if I agree with that in many ways, but we're really coming down to the end of the show. And so, David, I'm wondering if you have one last question for Phil?
I got about 40 questions for Phil. I'm going to save him when he and I go one-on-one. No, it's one thing that you did say, and it's the concept of passion. I believe you can have passion about a lot of things simultaneously, have passion about it. I remember the days when I was a single parent and operating a business out of my home with 2 sons, and they were teenagers at the time, and all the different things that went on because I was very active in their lives, growing up, but I was also very active in my business. They respected my space, my territory, which is a very, very important challenge that any entrepreneur who operates out of their home has. There has to be a family group understanding of some ground rules, because if there aren't, it's not going to work. But I'm real proud to say that today, and my sons are just 27 and 26, they both are doing things in the marketing world. And I'm so proud to see that, because maybe some of the stuff that I was doing actually rubbed off onto them. And I have a close relationship with my sons, and really proud. But it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to operate out of your home. It's maybe the biggest challenge an entrepreneur has, and particularly if there's other folks living under the same roof. So fight on. Let's and we got to help each other. We got to help each other with our experiences and collaborate, and together we will all move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, that's so true. And thank you so much for joining us today, David.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I just really love it when our audience pops in and has much to share with our guests. And Phil, this has been not enough time for everything that you have to share and the inspiration of how you look at marketing. I really encourage everyone to circle Phil if you haven't done that already, and definitely go after the book. And so now that we're bringing the show to a close, please, everyone in our audience, make sure you put in your takeaway, because we'll be announcing later who won the free copy of the book. And I want to thank everyone for being here. Next week, we'll have Lee Smallwood with Nodex, and we'll be talking about Nodex and talking about measuring, and also a little bit about the new integration with Circloscope. So I hope you join us next week. So David and Phil, let's say goodbye to everyone, and thank you, Super Zapster audience, for being with us today. Thanks a lot.